As a language coach, I pay attention to both your guys' opinion on different language learning apps and resources, and also the big picture industry stuff. So I want to talk about this cognitive dissonance thing that's happening with Duolingo. What do I mean by that? There's two separate worlds of Duolingo, okay? So there's your side, the user side, and for all intents and purposes of this video, I'm going to reference the comments that you guys leave on my videos of Duolingo, and of course my experience with my clients, as my data for how Duolingo users feel about the language app. And then I'm gonna compare it with Duolingo's profits. And there's an interesting, well, you'll see. So first, let's talk about what you guys feel about Duolingo. Y'all love to hate on me when I criticize Duolingo at all. There are literally thousands of comments on my videos that reiterate what I'm thinking and feel validated and all that jazz. So let's go through a few of your comments to get a general idea of what I see people feel about using Duolingo to learn a language. Now, I've been a Duolingo user for 10 years or something ridiculous like that. So I have a lot of history to compare the modern Duolingo to. Some of you do as well. Like this comment. The absolute worst part of this, which is a Duolingo update where it's no longer you get to pick and choose what lessons you're doing. You have to go through the learning path and you do not have any choice as to what you're learning. The absolute worst part of this is the removal of the tips and notes. The most popular languages like Spanish, French, Italian, German, Chinese, and Japanese have them condensed into unit guidebooks, but these are very abbreviated, often with entire paragraphs of helpful explanations missing. All the other languages have them removed completely. This makes learning a language with more complicated grammar such as Greek almost impossible. Or this one, stories are always more advanced than the lesson you're doing with so many new words. That is frustrating. That's why on the old Duolingo, I did stories when I completed all the lessons. Now there's no time to memorize anything. I find it much worse now. And I really like this next comment. The new tree layout forces learners into a single path that is probably designed for linear learners. It is a disaster for those of us who don't learn that way. It has really shot down my motivation. Then there's this one. It's very frustrating to follow the path and do a lesson over and over again that you already know very well. Now there are a zillion different comments like this, and you can, go to this video to read more of them. But the basic consensus is that as Duolingo updates its app and its strategy, it's less and less enjoyable, less and less useful. So all of you that like to come onto my videos and tell me about how I'm wrong and how I'm bought out by another app or something like that, it's not just me, okay? It is all of these people. So if a not small amount of Duolingo's users are stopping using Duolingo over time, you would think something would change, right? Because we live in a capitalistic society where you vote with your dollar. And you would think if people who are using Duolingo are using it less because it's so frustrating, they don't feel like it's flexible enough, they're not learning what they want to learn, you would think it would change the direction that Duolingo is going because it would make them less money, right? Not exactly. Duolingo is a public company, which means that you and me can throw some money at Duolingo stocks and invest in the stocks, which turns into money for Duolingo. Because of that, every few months, Duolingo reports on the profits that they're making compared to certain times in the past and what they think they will make in the future. Everything is totally public knowledge. You can find this on Duolingo's website. Now, as of this recording, we have up to 2023. So this post went live February 2024, which talks about record profitability in the fourth quarter of 2023. So up till December 31st, 2023. Now, there's a lot of things that don't really make sense to me, to be honest, but they aren't important to me because it doesn't have anything to do with you as a user. But let's talk about this graph. This graph shows you up until December 31st, 2023, how many monthly active users, daily active users, and paid subscribers there were. So this basically means how many people paid for Super Duolingo or Duolingo Plus or whatever their premium, not free version of it is, as well as how many people are using Duolingo every single day and every single month. You can see here where these statistics ended in 2023 compared to the same time in 2022. So up till December 31st of 2022. So you can see the comparison of how they're growing is basically so that people who are investing in Duolingo can feel happy about their investments because look, Duolingo is making a lot of money. Daily active users, or DAUs, which is people who are on Duolingo every single day to keep up their streak. Year over year, you can see that they're growing a lot, 65% more than the year before. That's a lot. And keep in mind, as you can see, this graph is in millions. So this means daily active users as of 2023, 26.9 million people were using Duolingo every single day. And you can see right below, Out of all of those daily active users, 6.6 million were paid. So that's not a majority. I don't know what the percentage is, but that's significantly less than 26.9 million. 6.6 compared to 26.9. The vast majority of people are not paying for Duolingo, but they are using it. Now, most of them aren't using it every day, but they are using it monthly. And you can see the percentage change from 2023 to 2022. That's a huge difference. That's a huge amount of growth. And this isn't just this press release. I've been watching these press releases every 3 months, and this change has been consistent. This change has been like 50% growth all across the board every 3 months. That is an insane amount of growth. And it's kind of troubling to me personally because there's only so much growth you can do until you run out of people, until you run out of humans. I'm curious how long they're expecting this growth to last because it's been a long time. And eventually they're gonna run out of language learners. Now, here's an interesting one. The following table provides revenues by product type. What does that mean? Well, it says it right here. And keep in mind, this is in thousands. So you see 13,484. That's not 13,484. That's 13 million? I don't know the math, but it's a lot more than 13,000. So that's subscriptions, that's ads, there's Duolingo English tests, there's in-app purchases, and others. So subscription, which is pay Duolingo. If you pay for Duolingo, you are included in this number. All the ads that you watch. So if you watch ads to like gain back hearts or, whatever they use ads for these days, this is you. Duolingo English test. Now we're going to talk about this in a second, but this is their third most profitable revenue. And same thing with in-app purchases, which I'm sure is, you either watch an ad or you can pay for it, all that jazz. That's a lot of money. So you can see where the difference is kind of weird. I have all these people telling me how they're quitting Duolingo and how upset they're about Duolingo and they're having to find other apps to learn a language. But over here, you can see that Duolingo is blowing up. They are making so much more money and it's growing a lot really quickly, month after month, year after year. And on the surface, this does not make sense at all. How is the app getting worse for language learners, but better for shareholders, better for the people who are trying to make money off of Duolingo? Now, fortunately for you, I already know the answer to this, and I've known the answer to this for years because this is not a new idea. This is not a new function of Duolingo. It's just become more obvious as Duolingo has gone public and allowed us to invest in Duolingo and make money off of their profits. There's a reason why there are so many language learners who use Duolingo and don't understand why it's working, but Duolingo is still blowing up. The reason for that is Duolingo's focus is not on teaching you a zillion different languages. Duolingo's focus is on teaching people English. Duolingo's priority has always been to help people learn English, and that is an excellent goal. There's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. So over the years, Duolingo has had a variety of different avenues of learning. I'm not sure if Duolingo still does this where you can join a language class. One of the things that Duolingo has is a whole bunch of free conversation classes. It's basically group lessons with an English teacher, and generally what they do is they start on Duolingo by giving you free lessons and they build up their clientele and then they charge people to learn English with them. As of 2016, so this is almost 10 years ago, this is not a new thing, Duolingo has also offered an official certified English test. So basically for those who are learning English as a second language for job opportunities to move to America or any number of things, Duolingo has made it more accessible for ESL language learners or English as a second language to prove their proficiency in English and improve their lives. And this is amazing. This is awesome. I am all for this. No criticisms about the concept. I don't know what the actual process is like, but whatever makes it more accessible for people to improve their lives gets an A+ for me. But what you have to realize is that this is Duolingo's focus. Their focus is not all the different languages. Their focus is not to, make it easier to learn a bunch of smaller Asian languages. Their job is not to expand upon the languages that they teach. If you are learning Spanish or French on Duolingo, then there is honestly years worth of content for you to work through. But most other languages do not have that much content. And so if you start on one of the newer languages, you might be disappointed that if you have like years worth of Spanish content, but you start with a different language and you can get through it in like 3 months, there's a reason for that. It's a free app. And even if you pay for it, that doesn't give you access to more content. In fact, that's one of the things that's been really important to the Duolingo brand as a whole, is that you can't pay to access more. All the content is readily available for everybody. What you pay for is parts and access to using it more often, basically. But as you can see, there's a giant cognitive dissonance between language learners who are using Duolingo to learn non-English languages and their frustrations with the app and, you know, how it's getting worse over time, and their explosion in revenue. They are making a lot of money, and this includes a lot of money for their shareholders who now pay to keep Duolingo afloat, because Duolingo's focus is not on non-English languages. It is and always has been on the English language. So you have to be aware of that when you are looking for language apps to use for your own language learning. Can Duolingo be a fun start and fun motivation? Sure, yes, absolutely. But you have to be aware of its limitations. And these limitations are not on accident. They're very intentional. And unfortunately for us non-English language learners, these intentions aren't going to change. These changes are not going to revert back to how it used to be, you know, 3, 4, 5 years ago. It's not going to happen, unfortunately, because that's not where their money is. Their money is on English language learners, on their English language exam, on all the different ways that they are making education more accessible to others who do not have access to education. And that is the important distinction. For people like me and for a lot of you, language education is accessible. There are so many free apps and resources. There are a lot of cheap and paid language learning resources that you can use so you don't have to depend on Duolingo. Duolingo is meant for those language learners who do not have access to the same resources that we have based on the country they are in, their income, all sorts of stuff. So you do have to be aware that basically if you hate Duolingo, it's because it's not for you, point blank. And there are tons of other resources available for you to use. Don't worry, I gotcha. If you are one of those language learners who wants to use Duolingo and you're feeling stuck and you're feeling frustrated with how Duolingo is evolving over time, you're in the right place. My first recommendation would be to start with this video, which is on alternatives to Duolingo for beginner language learners. From there, you can check out my blog post reviews on all the apps I mentioned. And from those blog post reviews, you'll also get a ton of different alternatives to those Duolingo alternatives. Seriously, there are so many options, you have no idea, and I'm about to blow your mind. So if you found this video valuable, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell to be notified when I post a new one, all about how to learn languages every Wednesday. And check out my video on Duolingo alternatives while you wait. Bye.